Let's go to the Skype wall. Daniel Harris is there, author, of course, of the legendary book, The Road, A Journey Through the Season. Also, co-editor of FCF. Daniel, good evening to you.
Hi.
Hi, Dan.
Yeah,
Hi,
Daniel, good to have you on there. I've got two guys in the studio here who are making a huge case for Luis Suarez being the most misunderstood man in Britain. What would you say in reply to that?
I'm not sure you could call it a huge case. I'd say they're talking about it, but they're not making any sort of case. But what I would say is this, is the bottom line with the Suarez situation is that in an argument with another person, he referenced their colour. And I'm not really sure what else there is to say. Like, whether he's racist or whether he isn't, you can't do that, and it should be strict liability. If you call somebody something that references their sexuality or their colour in a row, then you have to expect that you're going to get punished for that. I don't really see that there's that much
Daniel,
else
is it not about intent?
Of course, it's, how can it possibly be about intent? It's not a handball in the area.
Daniel, but Negretto in Uruguayan does not mean black.
He called someone Negro, which references the fact that he is black in an argument. It wasn't a compliment.
But in Uruguayan, that is not black.
What's it got to do with it?
Yeah, nothing.
Because he's talking.
He's not playing in Uruguay. He's playing in Britain.
But he's national. He's native language.
If he'd been here 10 years, that's a different story. He's been here since
January.
in
Holland.
He's been in Europe. Exactly.
Yeah, and they never had any problems. He was captain,
years.
and they never had any problems with him.
Well, perhaps he didn't call somebody a Negro.
Well, again.
Daniel, please go on. Listen, Daniel, how long should Suarez be allowed to be a permanent member of the Liverpool playing staff? Because if I was running that club now and I was over in Boston looking at the worldwide damage that he'd done to my club, he wouldn't be around much longer.
Well, Suarez in Liverpool obviously is none of my business, but certainly if he played for United, I would be quite keen for him to leave. I mean, in the first instance, as I said, whether he's a racist, whether he's not a racist, he certainly did something that referenced someone's colour in an argument. As I said, you can't do that in any culture. And Luis Suarez has lived in Northern Europe for several years. He's lived in Holland. People don't speak like that in Holland. He would have known that you're not meant to do that. He was pinching his cheek and shouting at him while he referred to the fact that he was black.
Daniel, I don't really see.
You can argue one way or the other that that's acceptable behaviour.
Back in January.
Hang on.
What's gone on since then is, to me, I mean, I don't really care whether he shakes Patrice Evra's hand or not. And I agree with you that the handshake in the first place is just a load of nonsense pomposity that we don't require.
I agree.
I can see why the owners of Liverpool have done something about it. The only thing that's surprising is that it's taken them so long. Because ultimately, it's hard to argue that he hasn't done something wrong. And I mean, the FA Commission felt that. And however much you argue whether he said it 7 times, whether he said it once, whether Patrice Evra changed his story, even though he certainly didn't change it as much as Suarez, Kamoli and Dirk Kuyt changed their story.
Right. Daniel,
what he did
another question here. Thank you from Aidan.
Daniel, did you, from Flash as well, we're both thinking the same thing. Did you want Eric Cantona to leave when he assaulted a fan?
I don't think do you think you're comparing like with like?
Well, more. I say what Cantona did was even worse than assaulting a fan. Yeah,
no, that's rubbish. That's rubbish.
Diving in.
Well, why did one get an 8-match ban?
Hang on, the guy who got it in the face from Cantona, actually, a lot of people would say probably deserved, to be admonished and more for what he said to Cantona.
A fan gave a player abuse.
No, it was more than abuse. It was horrible. Daniel, answer for me, please.
Can I just say as well before you start, Daniel, one got an 8-match ban.
Hang on. Go on. Daniel, go on.
The first point to make is that Cantona was banned by United for several months for doing that. He wasn't indulged with T-shirts in the way that Luis Suarez was.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And Fergie actually had to be talked out of kicking him out of United quite shortly afterwards. But what Suarez did was reference someone's colour in an argument. And if you were to do that to someone in the street and they gave you a slap, I think it's quite unlikely that you wouldn't find a lot of sympathy for that. Certainly, if I did that to someone, I wouldn't expect anyone to say, poor you. And what happened there was that Eric Cantona was sent off. Someone called him a French, whatever it was.
No, called his mother. It's called his mother a French something. Or...
Yeah, probably happened every week.
Whatever it was. I'm sure this is a family radio show, and we're not allowed to say exactly what that was. But and therefore, if you respond in that way, then it's like, for me, it's hard for me to say that I think you shouldn't do that, because if I did it to somebody else, I would expect them to respond in pretty much the same way. And if someone did it to me, I wouldn't hit them because it's not really in my character. But if I did, I don't think I would be too vexed with myself. So I don't really think that you're comparing like with like. But again, as I say, United suspended Eric Cantona for several months and ended up losing the league title by 1 goal.
Was it the FA? Was it the FA?
No. What happened was Manchester United suspended him for 8 months. The FA then imposed their ban of 9 months on him. Flash.
Well, that was sort of a penis wagging contest, really,
exactly,
wasn't it?
Exactly. I just find it totally one way, this whole argument. I mean, it's biased because you say to me that Suarez has just done his term, okay? Also, you say that he pinched his cheek in an argument. But if you take Suarez's point of view, he will argue that he was trying to get across to Evra that he wasn't calling him black. He was calling Negreto, which in Uruguayan means pal. So who do you want to believe? Who do you want to believe? Were you there, Daniel? Daniel, were you there?
No.
Are you going to take Man United or are you going to take Suarez? No, I tell you it's naive. Taking one side in an argument.
No.
I think this is about intent.
It's too
There's
naive.
two sides. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And the only thing I would find really Suarez guilty for is ignorance of not knowing that what he was doing was going to cause such offence.
Well, why didn't he produce some expert then from Uruguay to come and stand for him at the inquiry to say, no, this is a very popular practice? He didn't even appeal the decision.
No,
he knew he was on very shaky ground.
But again, we don't know who's advising him, though, Mike, do we?
Well, I don't know who's advising him, but Liverpool Football Club have got some of the, the highest powered brains in
the only two people
the
who
world
know exactly went on,
to them.
which is Patrice Evra and Luis Suarez. They're the only two that know exactly what went on.
Daniel, let's move on a bit here. How do you think the position of Kenny Dalglish in his position of supreme power at Liverpool stands today after this last 36 hours?
Well, I mean, I suppose as a United supporter, the appointment of Dalglish in the first place was something that we celebrated quite happily because we didn't think he'd be up to the job. Not very much has happened to suggest that he is up to the job, and it's quite enjoyable.
Oh, that's provocative.
That's very provocative. I think he's right.
Right, go on, keep going.
Enjoyable. Let me finish. It's quite enjoyable watching him shred his legacy, so that when they played Manchester City in the League Cup final, and you're thinking, is there any way they can both lose? Actually, we wanted Liverpool to win, because if they do win the League Cup, then that will earn him perhaps another year. Although I actually read somewhere today that not to be at all surprised if he's gone by the end of the season. And as we kind of sit there watching him and he looks more and more dishevelled, his hair gets more and more untidy, he seems less and less in control of what's going on, that it makes you think that almost like if I was given to feeling sorry for him, I would feel quite sorry for him. But certainly the way that he handled the Suarez thing, I thought was astonishing.
It was an old school reaction, wasn't it, Daniel? It was how a manager behaved 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just
well, yes, but then you were talking about Eric Cantona, and Fergie, who is one for always defending his players, had Cantona banned for 8 months.
Yeah,
it's
hard
hard
him back in the team.
And it's hard. And I think like what you were saying. I'm not sure which of the two of you it was, but what you're saying about the fuss about Suarez and if they'd just shaken hands and blah blah blah. I don't really think that Evra has to have shaken somebody's hand. But if Dalglish had said to Suarez, listen, like you've made a bit of a rictus here, just say you're sorry, then the whole thing would have gone away.
Yeah.
And I think that in a sense is Dalglish's fault. But I don't think he's been helped by Damien Comolli either, who told various nonsenses, as it turned out, when if you read the report, he was one of the several whose stories changed over the course. But you can't rely on Dalglish to make every decision. And if he is making every decision, then you're also relying on the people around you to tell you when you're too deeply involved to look at something in a more objective way. So I don't think that. I mean, Dalglish obviously completely covered himself in embarrassment, but I don't think it's entirely his fault.
Okay, all right. Well, Daniel, listen, thank you very much indeed. Extremely persuasive argument. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. See you upon the Skype wall again. Right, of course, we'd like you to keep in touch with the station, Sports Tonight Live, to get up on the Skype wall, and at Sports Tonight TV to get onto the board that Flash is controlling this evening with the messages, the tweets that we want from you to illustrate the way you, our viewers, potentially millions of you, are thinking. Flash, what's the messages so far?
Well, the top one is from Dion. As long as Suarez is at Liverpool Football Club, that club will be synonymous with racism. Suarez has spat on Liverpool Football Club's history and tradition. Bottom line, and this is from Jay Goog's man, bottom line is that by not shaking hands, he extended something that should not have been, it should now have been old news. It was definitely a distraction. He's a person that will take everything and give back very little, if anything. He's only hassle. As a Newcastle fan, I wouldn't have Suarez if he was free and paid us to play. Liverpool sold their soul by keeping him.
Okay, fine. Right, just very quickly, Aidan, you were nodding your head in agreement there with Daniel, our last guest, that Dalglish's performance as manager of Liverpool Football Club is below par.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, you look at the money he spent. If you look at it win for win, I mean, I don't know whether they would have expected to go for the Champions League this season. A lot of damage has been done there over the last couple of years. Yeah. Maybe he needs a bit more time, but I'm not sure. Some of those signings. I mean, that was all right. Look, if we cast our mind back 13 months to signing Andy Carroll. Right. All right, they let Torres go. I mean, it looks like an awful piece of business by both clubs, but Dalglish has to take his part.
Well, just look at the results. So, the home form is all over the place. They get good results against better teams, and that means if you can't get your points racked up for those teams that you should take 6 from each season, you're never going to be a challenger for the Premier League title.
I'd even cast out over his record anyway. He had absolute fortunes to spend at Blackburn, just as Mancini has fortunes to spend at Manchester City. It does make a massive difference.
Did nothing at Newcastle.
Nothing at Newcastle, nothing at Celtic, even though he's in an advisory role. And if you look back at Liverpool, well, it was a steady translation. I mean, it was like 85 he took over, Paisley was still there, Fagan was still there.
Oh, he inherited the team, didn't he?
Yeah, inherited the team. They're all his mates. They played for him. Yeah, okay. He won some trophies.
They were a boys' club, and they won the double in his first season as player manager.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be able to put it in context. You wouldn't be able to be a player manager these days.
No, of course not. No.